So in addition to Timothy Finley's The Wars, we'll also be doing selected poetry and some pieces of nonfiction, and I'll post all those into the syllabus as well, and they'll be in the lecture notes for that week as well. And then these are optional but recommended texts, so definitely have a look at the style sheet that is part of the English department homepage. It just sort of tells you what the sort of correct format for an essay, MLA style, how to integrate quotations, all that stuff you'll need to know. And then I'm highly recommending the film version of Shawshank Redemption. The director is Frank Darabont. It was released sort of in the late 90s. It's a really good film, and I think it will, if you have a chance to watch it in addition to reading the Stephen King story, you should definitely do so. And then finally, there is a grammar textbook that I recommended in my syllabus, and as long as you have a grammar reference guide, a handbook of some sort, you should be all right. It's just a good resource to have. If I'm talking about, comma splices or something, you can use your handbook and look that up for yourself. So because we're on such a sort of tight timeline for the course, I do expect you to keep up with the writing assignments. And I do have one policy, so you can, again, get one extension at some point over the course of the term, and then I can offer you maybe 2 extra days or so, or we could negotiate a timeline when you can get that assignment in. Otherwise, if you just don't talk to me beforehand, I will administer a late penalty on any late assignments. So that's 5% per day, and assignments will not be accepted after 10 days past the due date. In addition, students must pass the final exam to pass the class, and our final exam will be comprehensive and take place on June 24th. So if you would like to share a little bit about yourself, that would be very helpful to have an introduction to your classmates. And I've posted on the topic 1, week 1, there's a discussion forum. So this is where you get to introduce yourself. And I'd like you to share your name, your hometown and current city, any sort of information about your major, so what you're taking in university or what your career goals are. You can just tell us some personal information about yourself, so any hobbies or interests. Do you have a favorite film, a favorite TV series, a favorite book or favorite author? So just let us get to know you a little bit, and make sure you introduce yourself on the course homepage. I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you and having some interaction online. So just to recap what we're doing this week, so this is purely an orientation week for you guys. So week 1 is just for you to get familiar with how UR Courses works, what our course homepage looks like, and start to feel more comfortable using the online environment. Second thing you can do is, again, introduce yourself. There's a sort of discussion board on week 1 topic, and you can again share some information about yourself and get to know your classmates. You can also again review this course syllabus on your own time, make sure you have a copy and you've read it all the way through, so you know when things are due and how to keep up with the readings and writing for this course. And then finally, if you want to sort of start thinking ahead to next week, we will be talking about short stories, and if you want to look through the key terms of fiction handout that's been posted under week 1 topic, you can do so. There's also a self-quiz that you can take at any time over the course of the semester, and it's just a kind of review of all these key terms of fiction that might be new to you, or some might be review, but it's a good way to sort of study for the final as well. So you can take that self-quiz at any point and take it repeatedly if you want to sort of review some of the major terms of the fiction unit. So I thought I would talk a little bit about essay construction in this first week of classes. And this is pretty much a review of how you can start thinking about your writing assignments and what they need in terms of requirements. So just some things that we can all think about in terms of essay writing at this level. You are sort of probably familiar with a sort of 5-part structure to an essay, and that's what this little diagram shows you here. So every essay usually has an introduction, and in your introduction there is this model of the inverted triangle, and that just means usually you start more broadly and say something more broad to begin with, and then you want to narrow down your introductory paragraph so that it includes a specific thesis or argument as well as the main points of your main body paragraphs. So your introduction should include a broad introduction to the topic, a thesis statement that includes the title of the piece that you're talking about, the author's name, and some people also want to include the genre of the story that you're talking about, or if it's a poem, identify that genre. And then the main points of your argument should also be set out. So these are what we call signposting or signals for sort of setting up the rest of your argument. And then when we think about a good thesis or a good argument for a paper, it needs to be specific, so it can't be too broad or just a common sense logical point of view. It has to sort of be an argument. Again, you should identify the title and author and pose an intriguing argument that somebody could debate. So you want to make sure it's a clearly stated and concise argument in your thesis statement. And then you also want to set up your main points. So if you're going to talk about point A, point B, and point C, you should have 3 main body paragraphs following from your introduction. We're also looking for sentence or sequence and fluency. So by sequence, I just mean your argument should flow logically. So one paragraph should follow from the next paragraph to the next one. They should be in logical sequence. And fluency can be sort of developed through the use of transition words. So you want to sort of lead your reader, who is me in this case. You're writing towards somebody who has read the stories before. So you want to sort of lead me through your arguments and use transitions to add more flow to your writing. University papers also need supporting or illustrating evidence. So this is basically just the use of quotations, right? You'll use either direct quotations or paraphrase or specific examples from the text to support your argument. So this is where you're proving your points using very specific examples from whatever text that you're talking about. And it'll become important. You can look on your own time how to properly integrate quotations. I'll put up some information about that as we go along. Sentence structure and grammar is always important. So for an English class in particular, but for all your classes, having correct grammar and sentence structure is an important part of your grade and always a consideration. So if you know you have problem areas like run-on sentences, or you don't know how to use an apostrophe, these are all common errors at this level. Make sure you do, in your own time, also look at the grammar handbook that you have, or look at online sources, do some practice drills online through quizzes, and make sure you're keeping up and sort of also practicing the problem areas that you know you have already in terms of grammar. And then finally, you should also familiarize yourself with MLA standard formatting. And this is sort of the use of, in English, in the English department, we use MLA. In other disciplines, you'll use maybe APA or Chicago style, but MLA is the author's last name and the page number in brackets after any quotation or paraphrase. And then you're also supposed to include a works cited page with every single paper. So at the end of your paper, you'll have one last page that tells us the names of all your references or resources that you used within your paper. And here you can also see in this diagram, this is just how a basic paragraph is sort of formed. So when you think of any paragraph, you might write minimum sort of 5 to 7 sentences. Usually you would have a topic sentence, so this sort of announces what the topic of your complete paragraph is. And then you'll have supporting points. This is where you would include specific examples or quotations from the text. And then I usually like a concluding sentence, but you could also sort of add, start transitioning into the next paragraph as well. And transitions at the start of your paragraphs are also very helpful for leading your reader through your argument and showing the logical sequence of your points. And then finally you can look at the conclusion, which is also a right side up triangle. So this sort of represents how you'll move from your very specific argument back out to a more broad point of view. And you're not supposed to put anything new points in your conclusion. You're just supposed to sort of summarize, not a word for word summary, but like summarize the main ideas of your argument and then sort of broaden it again. So if you're talking about the text, what are the sort of longer or far-reaching impacts of the text? So that's one thing that you can do or think about when you are writing your formal essays. In regards to grammar and sentence structure, these are the top or most common mistakes that I see at the first year level. So these are things that I look for when I'm grading. So if you are making these errors, again, I would encourage you to look and practice in your own time. Some of the grammar exercises included in the grammar handbook that I assigned, or if you have a different handbook, again, make sure you are reviewing these concepts in your own time. So what you need to avoid is comma splices, run-ons, and sentence fragments. You also need to practice agreements, subject-verb agreements, and pronoun agreement. You're going to avoid vague references or words that are vague, such as this or that. And you're going to not have any shifts in tense. You're going to avoid dangling modifiers. And you're going to spell and punctuate your sentences correctly. So if you can do all that, then you are on your way to constructing a very successful paper. Most of us do have our weak areas, right? So I know comma splices are probably the most common errors that I see, and that's when you join two complete or independent clauses together with a comma rather than a period. So you can practice such things online. There are online quizzes or drills that you can do. One I like that I think is pretty fun is chompchomp.com. So if you want to look that up on Google, you can do so, and again, practice in your own time, doing some grammar drills, and it will help you over time get better at some of these problematic areas.